So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
Okay, hey everybody, want to welcome you to today's edition of Bible News Radio. As you know, we come here to you every single day, broadcasting from the middle of the country here in Middle Tennessee. And today we have a show for you. Yeah, we do. And it's going to be a show that you're going to definitely want to share out. You're going to want to share this out because the issue of the LGBT lobby, and in particular transgenderism, is so big right now. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but you know, there are actually people who have been victims of this and who actually live to tell about it, okay? And not just the person that struggles with these issues, but people in their families, which are often the overlooked victims in this, right? Nobody likes to talk about this, but we here at Bible News Radio insist on it because it's important, people. So anyway, so do me a favor, share this out on whatever platform you're at. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure that you go ahead and you say hi to us so I know that you're there. And if you don't mind, share it with your followers. If you're on YouTube, you can also share it out there on the archive. If you're listening to iTunes, Spreaker, or you're on Bullhorn, yeah, you can share it there too. You can share it wherever you want. Because remember, sharing is caring, people. Yeah, it is. Because you know what? There is hope. Yeah, there is. All right, so I want to say hi to a couple of people I see coming in. Mia, thank you for sharing that out. See? Look at that. You took my suggestion. Artie and Diane, Patriots United, thanks for coming in. You guys, this is a show you're going to want to share. Trust me. All right, my guest is the daughter of a man who is a cross-dresser, transvestite, and transgender. And she's here to tell her story and to give people hope. Because you know what? There's total hope, especially in the Lord. And we want to offer that to everybody today. So I want to thank you for doing that and being a part of the alternative media. In fact, I was on my Bitmoji account, you know, where they make those cartoons of you, which actually oddly look a lot like you, except for me. My hair is a little bit curlier than my Bitmoji. But anyway, it actually said the alternative perspective. And this is what the media is all about on the internet, because liberal media doesn't want you to know the truth. Hey, Chrissy, nice to see you too. All right, there we are. All right, thank you and good night. No, I'm just kidding. I can't help it, okay? I'm just conditioned to say thank you and good night. All right. So I don't know about you, but this year I went down to the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, and there I met my friend Stephen Black, who is with First Stone Ministries. I also ran into Ann Polk from the Restored Hope Network, and we all connected. But I also met today's guest there too, which I didn't even remember until like a minute ago. What does that say, people? That I'm old. I have a bad memory. No, just kidding. But, you know, it's interesting how God works, because not only did I meet Denise there, but I also got a press release a little while ago about her latest book, which is called It Is Well With My Soul. And the subtitle is Finding God's Peace in the Transgender Storm, right? And here it is. Here's the cover. You can see it. Right, and let me tell you a little bit about Denise. Denise Schick is my guest. Yeah, she is. She's jumped through a lot of hoops today to get here. She is the founder and executive director of Help for Families. Help, the number 4 Families, is a nonprofit Christian ministry dedicated to offering encouragement and resources for those who struggle with gender confusion and their friends, families, and communities. Denise has worked with families of gender confusion since 2004, so that's a long time, in case you didn't know that. And she works with church leaders and and all this. And she's totally an expert at this, way more than I am. She's the author of My Daddy's Secret, When Hope Seems Lost, and co-author of Dangerous Affirmations, which, yeah, we could talk about that, I'm sure. She's also spoken all over the place nationally. She's been interviewed on a gazillion TV shows and radio shows. And she's married to Mark for 33 years. And today it's her first time on our show, and I'm totally honored. So Denise, hey, welcome to Bible News Radio. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you are here, even though I know you're in transit, and you're a superhero for pulling off the side of the road because of stupid traffic.
Yes, because of road work that has hesitated our delivery time.
Well, so just so you know, people, she is in her car, but don't worry, she's not driving or anything, not at this point. Okay, so what I want to do, Denise, is I want people to know a little bit about your background and your testimony. I actually just saw some of it. I saw about a 10-minute piece that you did a while back. But this is your first time on my show, so I would love it if you could just tell. Is that your GPS acting up?
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's what you call multitasking, and everything that's going on today is just bizarre.
That's okay. Oops, are you still there? Okay, she's frozen right now. Hold on. Hi. Hey, Melanie. Nice to see you. Thanks for the hearts. Okay, are you back, Denise? Oh, I think I lost her. Don't worry. She'll come back, people. And it's kind of funny. She left one state to drive to another, and like about an hour ago, she called me up, and she said, I'm in traffic because there was this construction, and it's totally held me up, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyway, so she's in her car. And hopefully in a minute she'll be back. But in the meantime, what you guys can do is you can just share this out because you're going to want to, because people really, really need to know that there is hope for this issue, and there are victims, of this issue that nobody ever talks about. Just like with homosexuality, for example, men or women who get married to another spouse of the opposite gender the way it's supposed to be, and then they decide, oh no, I'm going to go and I'm going to be with somebody else. There is another victim, and people don't often talk about it. The left behind spouses or whatever. So, okay, you're back.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's okay. I know how to kill time. So, but anyway, so Denise's story is very interesting because she really will touch on the issue that there are more than one victims of this issue. So, okay, so Denise, go ahead, share. I just want you to share your testimony, how you actually led into this stuff. So,
Sure. So it was a particular summer day, and I just remember the blue skies, and it was sunny out. I was in our home washing dishes. My mother was at work. She worked the afternoon shift, and my dad asked for me to come out and sit with him. And it just wasn't something that was common for my father to want you to come out and sit with him or just to talk with him. So I honestly thought, what was I getting in trouble for? But within moments of sitting outside with him, his first words were, I want to become a woman. And I obviously didn't have a clue. Of course, you think about this back then, years ago. And I just thought, what's he talking about? How could he be a woman? He's my dad. He's a man. And so as I sat there that day and listened to the details that he would share, that honestly no child should have revealed to them at this age. For instance, he would tell me, I would know when he was feeling this way, details of his life, of things that had happened to him, and my mother's and his relationship, and some details there as well. And I honestly thought, well, okay, this is my dad, and I'm a separate person. This doesn't really affect me. But what I discovered just right after this conversation, after him sharing, was that I started to grieve the loss of my father, because immediately it felt like I was saying goodbye to my dad. Was basically telling me he didn't want to be my dad, that he never wanted to have children. And so there was a lot of grief that started immediately. I thought, by 11, 12 years old, I'm still not telling anybody what my dad had shared with me. I started to second guess God. If God really did make a mistake and dad should have been, now we're getting pulled over by the cops. So, bear with.
Are you really?
God, we really are. Yes. Yeah, we are.
This is a job for Legal Shield, people. Okay.
Yeah, it is. So
He's probably gonna ask us to leave.
yeah, he's probably we'll put on our seatbelts.
Oh.
Yeah, this is really good. That's there. I don't know which side
This is
to
for
come.
real,
This
though.
is for
We
real.
are for real here, people.
So as I'll go on till we hear from him, my dad had just it just changed my life. I struggled if God created dad wrong, then how do I know I'm not supposed to be a boy? And second guess that on my own sex. And so there was a lot of confusion. By the age of 14, I started to save my lunch money. One second.
Yeah, we're okay.
We are. We apologize. I had a meeting.
I seen you when I went by, but I couldn't get over.
Thank
so I had to
you.
go turn around and come back, turn around. So that's
Thank
what that
you.
was.
Thank you for checking.
I just want to make sure you guys are okay.
So,
Denise, before you go on, you didn't say how old you were. I know how old you are when your dad initially told you this thing. If
Yeah.
and it's nice that the officer just wanted to help you, which was really nice. You weren't in trouble, so that's good.
yeah. So I was 9 years old when my father had shared this with me. And so at 11, 12 years old, second guessing my gender, sexuality, some questions there that came in. At the age of 14, started to save my lunch money for alcohol, looking for a way to escape my emotional pain, in a sense, trying to survive in this type of environment. Because there became such anger and resentment that my dad had towards me as I started to develop into a young woman.
Yeah.
He became very angry towards me. And so that was really difficult, almost like you're trying to survive and hang on to your identity as a girl and to feel comfortable in that. I also discovered at 15 years old that he was now wearing my clothes, that I would start to find them in some of the oddest places, in the bathroom, behind the towels, in his behind the seat. So at that point, he was unsafe. It was like nothing, there weren't any boundaries. Whatever my dad wanted of mine, he took. And so fighting for that freedom of who am I, and to be comfortable in being the young woman that I naturally was becoming. So, that was from 9 years old to 15 years old, considered suicide. Actually look at the different ways to go about it, because I felt like I was suffocating and I couldn't grab any. I was having trouble.
Uh-oh. You're kind of freezing up a little bit. Just so you know, everybody, Denise is on her 4G network. And I hope she's not getting kicked off at the moment, but we'll see. She's kind of frozen up on my screen. But if you just got here, my guest is Denise Schick, and what she shared already was that her dad revealed to her this secret that he really wanted to be a woman when she was 9 years old, and that she actually was struggling with this, and between the ages of 9 and 15 she wanted to commit suicide because of all these horrible things that her dad was doing to her, and what he revealed. Okay, you're back, right? And you're back.
Yes, I am.
Welcome back.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
So it was very difficult, and I had never told anybody. I didn't even tell my mother what my dad had told me on that day. as a daughter, my mother was sick often with migraines. And so I thought that if I tell her, this is going to surely make her sick. She'll have a migraine and it'll be my fault. I had 4 younger siblings, and I just took the mother role of protecting them from my father the best that I could with his anger, with some of the ways that he would lash out, just tried to really keep my younger siblings from him when mom was at work. And so then it was, as I said, take you back to God bringing Mark, my husband, into my life at just 15. And just as the time where I'm looking at suicide, I'm looking at drugs because the alcohol didn't seem to be numbing the pain enough. That Mark, he was different than the other boys. He wanted to get to know me. And so that was something that I noticed. I'm like, well, this is really different. He wasn't interested in the normal things that you knew boys were after. And so with that respect, and just the way that he really cared and valued me, and as he introduced me to God and his relationship with him, I was raised Catholic. And so I knew there was God. I believed there was God, but I didn't have a personal relationship with him. I didn't understand as he started to talk about having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And so it was at that time of my dating with him that just changed my life. He bought me my first Bible. It was a King James, very difficult version to read, but I just couldn't get enough of it. In fact, the first time I came into Deuteronomy 22:5, it was like, oh, God doesn't want men to wear women's clothing or vice versa, so it gave me, I felt like some valid reasons for the way that I felt. But the scripture that honestly spoke to my heart so powerfully was Proverbs 3:5. Trust the Lord your God with all your heart. And as a teenager living at home in this environment, I just leaned on that. It's like, you don't understand, Denise, and you don't know why this is happening, but that's okay. You just keep trusting me. You keep trusting me because I'm your heavenly Father and I care about you.
That's
and
right.
So, that's kind of what led coming to know God at a much deeper level than ever before, and just learning to lean on him.
Yeah. Well, what I love about your testimony is that it's, first of all, it's a genuine one and it's real, and I can actually personally relate to that. My parents raised me Catholic, and they got divorced when I was 7. And like you, it wasn't until later, I was actually in high school, but it wasn't until later that I became a Christian when somebody gave me a Bible, and I actually started to read it. I couldn't get enough of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most awesome book in the history of all mankind. I loved it because I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So anyway, so I just thank you for sharing that. And I know I looked down. Sorry, my bad.
No, yeah, it was the change. Without Mark, I don't know as if I'd be living today, number one. And if I was, I don't know if I'd be an alcoholic or into drugs,
Right.
where my life would have been ruined. So God's timing was perfect in that. Now, Mark and I married a couple months after I graduated from high school. He was a couple years older. And again, nothing being said through the years, and not even to my father. I never mentioned anything about that conversation that day. So the silent part of me was hoping, Dad's okay now. He's gotten some help, that something's changed to help him. But I would find out that that's not the case. On my wedding day, as I went up the aisle to meet my dad for him to walk me up the aisle, he turned and looked at me and he said, I wish it were me in that gown. And my heart just sunk. It was like I knew then, okay, Dad still hasn't gotten help.
Yeah.
Or, number one, he'd been sexually molested. He'd had mental abuse that occurred to him as a child. There were multi layers of hurt that created the perfect storm for him in the transgender chaos. So, you're walking up the aisle and just trying to put on a smile and get through that. And it wasn't until 10 years later when he left my mother to pursue the identity as Becky. And again, from 9 years old to 28, nothing was said. And so my mom had no idea that I knew the struggles and what went on between her and my father until he left at this time.
Wow. Yeah, and people are basically saying wow in the chat room too, just so you know. My heart goes out to you when I heard you say what he said to you at your wedding. I I know if it was me, I would have wanted to feel the exact same way, and all that. And it is such a blessing that God though provided Mark for you to marry. And and of course your relationship with your mom is really interesting to me, because I know in the beginning of your book, one of the things, I think it was your book, I know it was somewhere I read, because I read a whole lot of stuff. You were talking about how you wished you spend more time with your mom, but
Yes.
she was working a lot, trying to provide for you, because your dad was going out and buying makeup and dresses and stuff like that for him, right?
Yes, yeah, she worked very hard at a factory job and, to provide food on the table. I mean, there were times where dad had his clothing or his makeup, but if we were hungry, in all honesty, there were times where you'd go down the basement and go grab a raw potato and put some salt on it, that's what you had. Mom only had so much money and she had 5 of us children
Wow.
to care for. So she had a very difficult life with him.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Unfortunately, as kids, we don't even know sometimes what our parents go through and how they protect us in some ways, and and how in other ways they really do the best they can, right? I mean, just in some
Yes.
ways. So now so basically you came to this place though where everybody began to know about it, right? I mean,
Yeah, I grew up in a very small town, country town in Pennsylvania. And so when any news of anything imaginable that happened to anybody, everybody knew about it. So it spread like a forest fire when he had left. And it was helping mom pick up the pieces. He left her in even a worse financial situation, just emotionally. She was so broken because she just felt that she had stuck with him through all these years, that they would grow old no matter what difficulties they faced. And so just to see her so emotionally distraught and broken was very hard to watch my mother through the years. But Mark and I, managed to help her in many different situations and just to be there for her. And then, of course, for myself, I realized that my heart was growing even colder and harder towards my dad. A lot of resentment. The only way that I can describe it is personally, I feel like an axe couldn't have cracked my heart. It was so cold, stone hard. And for 13 years, from the time my dad left, 13 years went by. And so that heart was developing even harder and harder, because I know how he would still hurt mom or try to contact her, say, I'll come home, but you have to decide how long can I wear a women's lingerie? What if the neighbors will say, and the children have to know this and this? And it was an ultimatum. And thank God that she did not bow down to his demands for him to be able to come home, because I can't imagine what that would have done to her then as well. But it was just noticing how hard my heart was. And I knew that's not what God wanted. But to deal with it meant that I had to face reality. And that's something that us family members will say, it takes years many times, because once you face the reality, you can't stuff it back in the box.
Yeah. That's so true. And you know what, Denise, I really want to say thank you for being honest there. Because you know what? A lot of Christians, put out this thing like, oh, yes, I went through this tragedy and God miraculously gave me this ability to forgive on the spot, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know who you are, but that's not my experience. First of all, it's a process. And so I really appreciate you being honest there, because frankly, it is hard. And I know for me, when I went through the things that I went through, it took years for me to get through some of the layers of the abuse and understanding in my own heart, and coming to a place where I had that sin and unforgiveness, and God had to go, okay, look, just so you know, kiddo, I'm trying to work on you too. So you actually had a lot of compassion towards your dad, though, in the last 6 months of his life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, what God was doing a stirring in my heart as my mother came over to share with me that he was dying of cancer. My first reaction, and I'm just really honest with folks, was I don't care. Let him just die. And again, because it hurt, I didn't want to deal with it.
Mm.
But God started to stir. You need to forgive him. You need to forgive him once and for all. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But God didn't give up. He continued to speak to me. And it was about 10 days after that. My husband was working out of town, so I got a hold of my brother because my dad then was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so it was a drive. And I asked my mother not to let him know that we were coming. I wasn't sure how he was going to react. I mean, 13 years had gone by, and I didn't know what he looked like, any of that. And because of the Lord saying, you need to go and forgive him once and for all, knowing that that he had a short time on earth, that's what I had to do. That's what God had asked me to do. And it was being obedient to what he was asking and what we're called to do, to forgive others that hurt us.
Yeah.
It was an amazing 6 months, no matter how difficult it was. My father didn't recognize me. He didn't recognize my brother. But it was a visit that when we came to the door and knocked and he allowed us in, he actually thought we were from hospice. So he had no clue who we were. And it wasn't until about 10 minutes after into the conversation, I thought, he didn't know who we are. And I said, do you know who we are? And he, was going on, well, yeah, you're from hospice. I said, no, this is your son and I'm Denise, your daughter. And, it was the first time that my dad ever in his life did I ever see tears come down his eyes.
Mm.
And so it was through those 6 months of learning more about his life as an adult, though. I wasn't that 9-year-old girl. I was ready to hear some hard truth and to walk alongside of him. Nothing's more difficult than walking into a hospital room with your dad with pink fuzzy slippers, a woman's nightgown and teddy bears and, his LGBT friends that are calling him Becky and she and her. And it was very painful. It was very painful to walk through that process, but it was so worth it. So worth what God had done in and through those 6 months.
Wow. So so you mentioned that he called himself Becky. What was your dad's actual name?
Harold.
Harold, okay.
And I never referred to him as Becky. Never did the pronouns, she, her, any of that. And it wasn't out of that hardened heart, in all honesty, as God is my witness, is because I wanted him to remember who he was. And if I played into that with him, there would be nobody speaking truth to him. I did this out of the love for my father and my love for him.
Right. I'm glad you said that because today, as you are well aware of, and even more so than probably most people, there's such an assault on people of faith or just people in general who will actually identify somebody by their proper pronoun, gender pronoun. In fact, I was reading an email from my friend Gordon Klingenschmidt this morning where somebody was recently let go from their job because they refused to identify the person of their preference, what they wanted to be, as opposed to their biological, gender that God gave them. So it's interesting how the activist community has marketed this. As David Kupelian would say, the marketing of evil is out there, and yet those people like you who actually have lived with it and walk this interesting journey, you can speak, I will say this, speak truth to power, right? I mean, in the truest sense of the word, and I really mean that. So
I think that when we speak truth, if we do it with our heart, with the meaning, how the Lord would meet my dad at the well. I wrote on this and I said, if my dad came to the well as Mary did, and he sat and had a conversation and he asked my dad what his name was, and if my dad said Becky, would the Lord not, in a loving way, tell him that's not the truth? That's not who you really are because of his love for him? Families go through a real grieving process. We're grieving the loss of somebody that's still alive, but we're grieving a loss because they're lost spiritually in who they are.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting because most people don't even look at it that way. And, you know, if you guys came in late, I know a lot of you came in late. I want to say hi to a lot of you that came in. Tell me, and Pastor Garrett is here, and Magnus over in Sweden is here, and a whole bunch of other people. Carolyn came in, and there's too many of you. I can't say hi to everybody, but Denise's book here is called "It's Well with My Soul," and the subtitle is "Finding God's Peace in the Transgender Storm." This is part of her story. We're giving you a little bit of the backstory, but you can get this. You can go to her website, help4families.com, and you can learn more about this book as well as her other books. All right, that actually talk about this. And I'm going to tell you something right now, that there are very few people personally that I actually know of that actually address this issue, especially from a Christian perspective. If you've watched us for any length of time, you guys know that we've had on Walt Heyer, who actually came out of that himself. And, you know, he's written a book called Sex Change Regret, and addressed issues such as the comorbid disorders of depression, anxiety, and things like that often don't get addressed even within the LGBT community as a whole, except for the fact that there's acknowledgement that it exists, but when it comes to actually getting healing for it, it's like, what? There's no hope. You know, Jesus can't help that. And we're like, wait, hold on just a second. I don't know about you, Denise, but it drives me crazy that the enemy has assaulted the fact that people believe it, that, you know, you can't get help for gender confusion, really. I mean, gender identity issues.
Yeah.
Now, you have been working with people for what, 14 years at least, professionally?
Yes.
It's a long time.
It is.
So your dad, though, went, okay, it was my understanding based on what I read that your dad was a cross-dresser, a transvestite, and then transgender. And those are three very different things. Do you mind addressing each of those things?
Sure. So cross-dressing would be when somebody would put on the clothes of another for the sexual and relational release that would give. Transvestite would pretty much mean the same thing. Transgender is when somebody is biologically, they feel that they are biologically in the wrong body, and they are really emotionally distressed about it, almost like body morphia, you know, where they feel so uncomfortable, so distressed, become depressed, and have anxiety. They might look in the mirror, and where we would see the reality that they are male or female, they see themselves as something other. So if we think of somebody that's anorexia, that looks in the mirror, that is 90 pounds, but they see themselves as 300 pounds, you know, that's another way of being able to describe this. But yet with somebody that's anorexia or bulimia or something like that, we in reality know that that's not true, you know, that you really do weigh this much and let us help you. But with this transgender movement that's going on, we're assisting others to further delude who they are, to create situations where they're on a lifetime of testosterone hormones, anxieties, depression medications, cutting off healthy body parts. It just seems insane.
It is insane. In fact, I have to say that I forgot who it was, but somebody produced a really great video about how if you had done any of these other things and wanted to alter a body part that was completely normal, they would actually put you away, and they would say, hey, you need to get some mental health. But with this particular issue, they're actually advocating for it, which basically comes back to something that I say all the time, and it makes sense to me that from a spiritual perspective, if we believe the devil exists, and I do, and I believe that God exists, and I believe that humans are made in God's image, this is the reason why there's such an assault on this gender issue, is because the devil hates the fact that man and women are created in God's image, and when we're together, we reflect him and his church. So what better way to mar God's image than to mar a human being by convincing them that they are not who God created them to be, but instead trying to convince them that they're somebody completely different and that God made a mistake, thereby calling God a liar and trying to ultimately underline the gospel, right? Which we know which is truth. So, so with your dad, now you said your dad had cancer. And how old was he, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, he had died at 63.
Okay. And was he involved in any homosexual activity that you know of, or was it just
You
strictly?
know, as a child, or I should say as a teenager, as I started to date, I noticed what to me where he would get giddyish around certain boyfriends, and it made me uncomfortable. I even wondered, was he gay? But I honestly could not go there. I felt like I was already trying to stay alive emotionally.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of like, I think this is going on, but I can't think about this. And so it wasn't until after he passed away when a friend at his LGBT church decided that she did not want to take care of whatever needed cleaned out of the home and things of that nature, and decided to hand it over to me somehow. I'm not sure why he had done that. But when I had gone up into a certain room in my dad's apartment, there were letters in this one room, many letters, that I seen the correspondence between him and other men, that he was seeking love, friendship, companionship with. And so it was like, then when you're holding a letter in your hand, you can't deny what you're seeing and what you're reading.
Wow. There you go, people. All right, we're going to take a break here. Denise, I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to relax, take a drink of water or something. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, and especially on Periscope because that's where most of you are. All of you are there. Thank you guys for coming in. And by the way, thank you for sharing this out. I really appreciate it because you know what? This is alternative media, and only people will know about it if you share it out. Okay? I mean, Periscope isn't going to go, hey, this show on, transgenderism should be highlighted and featured. No, they're going to spike it. And by the way, I just should tell you also that I actually have some haters on Periscope who are in that community. So, the fact that if you share this out, just so you know, it's better because then it offsets some of the unfortunate behavior of the activist community. All right. Also, I want to thank our sponsor, Ariel Ministries. If you guys are not familiar yet with the work of Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum, who's a Messianic Jewish believer, we've partnered with him, and he gives us a 20% discount for everything in his store. If you go to ariel.org, you can use the coupon code Bible News, save 20% on anything there. We're highlighting the life of the Messiah from Messianic Jewish perspective. Volume 4, but there's actually 4 volumes in the whole set. You can get the whole set, or you can start with volume 4 and then go backwards. Yeah, just read the books backwards, people. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that. or you can get the unabridged version, which is the black book. It's actually there on our website at BibleNewsRadio.com. And or you can get DVD sets that talk about end times Bible prophecy, eschatology. Our former guest, Model Ballaston, a Messianic Bible teacher, has some really great stuff there. So there's a ton of stuff from Ariel that you can get. We highly recommend their resources because they're biblical and they're grounded. It's just biblical stuff. So don't forget to tell your friends and churches and other people about the discount. Because when Ariel sees that people are buying stuff from us because of our audience, they continue to support us. And we all win, right? You get a discount, I get a discount, we all win. And that's awesome, okay? And by the way, I should tell you, we're the only place they advertise, so they'll know it's from us. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that for those who want to hold on to their money for a moment and just get a sampling for free of the type of material that comes out of Ariel Ministries each month, they allow us to have, they allow us to share with you a Bible study, which is normally has a cost associated. You can get it for free. This month, on our website, BibleNewsRadio.com. On the resources page in the top row, you'll see free Bible study. And this month, it's the Ministries of the Holy Spirit. This is a 42-page Bible study by Dr. Arnold G. Fruchtenbaum. There's no email required. Don't have to get a list or give us your, social security number or pledge your firstborn child, just anything like that. Just click the download button, comes straight to your download straight to your device, and download and enjoy, and you'll get a good taste of the scholarship of this Messianic Bible teacher.
All right. And by the way, somebody named Daniel just said that they loved you, Randall. Just so you know. Okay.
Good to know.
Also, we want to let everybody know about Bullhorn. Yeah, we're over on Bullhorn. This is a brand new mobile app. And look, I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to tell you one reason why you need to download it today. Okay. The reason is because they are not going to squelch your free speech. They're not going to spike your show. They're not going to hide it from anybody. Anybody that follows you will get it. They'll get notified when you put something out on there. The owners of this app, Bullhorn, are with Free Conference Call, which is one of the largest conferencing systems in the world. Okay, so go to getbullhorn.com or Apple or Android, wherever it is you get your mobile apps. Download Get Bullhorn. You can see it right there. Randall's putting it up. And then follow us at Bible News Radio, also known as Stacy Lynn Harp. That's me, your sweet and lovable host. You can just find that. I think we're the only ones that have a big audience on there right now because we're in beta and they want us to tell you about it. And I want to tell you about the app because it's a really cool app. We just need more people to follow us on it to get the word out. So go to Bullhorn or getbullhorn.com after the show and do it, okay? If you don't mind. Also, Legal Shield. You guys know that that I am with Legal Shield, and because we need to protect the world, people, protect and defend. And I have to tell you, Legal Shield honestly rocks. It's the best value you're gonna ever get for $24.95 a month. I'm not kidding you. You guys get the membership pays for itself. And here's the thing, you guys, when you sign up under me, you help Bible News Radio, but honestly, you help yourself way more. And so if you just go to our website, what is it, the resources page?
Our sponsors.
Our sponsors page. Just click through there. Or like yesterday, I told you to text me directly at 714-244-6890. That's actually my cell phone. This is literally my cell phone. You could text me on my phone. I'm giving it to you. And just say, hey, I want to know more about Legal Shield, where you can literally protect your family for $25 a month. Get legal access to attorneys, get your will done, which usually costs about $1,000. You can get your traffic tickets, get help with those. You can have attorneys go for you in your stead. If you get a traffic ticket, you can get that reduced. You can talk to your attorney about anything just for that low fee. I'm not kidding you, and I don't know what it is, but people, you all need this. You do. In fact, over on my Stacy Lynn Harp MS Facebook page, I just started doing a daily update of all the crimes that are taking place, especially with identity theft and fraud. If you don't have some type of protection, you really need to. ID Shield, $9.95 a month. And they cover way more than what most people have. Most people think, oh, yeah, my bank is covered, blah, blah. This covers everything: your passport, your license, your checking account, all your credit cards, all your department stores, all your social media, all that for $9.95 a month for a person. If you have a family and you're married, it covers up to 8 kids and mom and dad for the same price, $24.95. Okay, so this is, it's a no-brainer, seriously. So contact me and we'll get you signed up because you need to be protected. And I don't care if you have other insurance. You have health insurance you don't use. You have car insurance you don't have to use. You have house insurance you don't have to use. This stuff is so affordable, and there's 400 places you get perks. I already told you, I already saved over $400 with the perks alone, which paid for my membership for I don't know how long that was, but a long time. So sign up, and a whole bunch of you guys are already in it with me. And just so you know, when you sign up under me, not only do you help us out, but I will put you in a private Facebook group, and I will keep telling you different benefits that keep coming up, because there are a ton of new things every day that I'm learning about this membership. And you know what? You want to be empowered, especially in today's day and age where things are litigious left and right. Okay, so go over to Stacy Lynn Harp MS. That's my Facebook page later, and go watch my daily updates. Today, I'm just going to say really fast that a Domino's guy ripped people off. Somebody else had their cable they've been ripping off their cable for like 7 months. They didn't know. Yesterday I covered a story. Somebody had stolen somebody's identity for 10 years. So you don't even know if your identity's been stolen, but it probably has because there's been so many breaches. So we just want to help. Okay, just so you know. All right, and lastly, but certainly not least, I want to let you know that if you like Bible News Radio, we are not a nonprofit, but we do appreciate those of you who donate. We call you our pillars of the community, and we really appreciate if you donate to us over at BibleNewsRadio.com/give. So if you're getting any value out of our show, and I hope you are, because we bring you the best, I think, then feel free to donate to us, and I will send you a special gift for doing that this month in July. All right, and we'll continue into August. Every time you give, we'll give you something special. Okay? All right. So if you came in late, my guest is Denise Schick, and she is with the ministry Help for Families.com, and she specifically really specializes in helping people with gender identity disorders. And today she's here sharing with us her story about her dad, who was transgender, a cross-dresser, and involved in transvestitism, and how God brought her through that, gave her the opportunity to forgive her dad, and now she's helping other people in a culture, I might add, that is very hostile to people getting helped with this issue. So she's a hero. She's actually on her way to an event and in her car, dealing with all this stuff.
Not driving.
She's not driving though. And it's super cool that you're still here, Denise. So so thanks for coming back, and I hope that you didn't mind the break.
Yeah, thank you.
So what I want to do now, we actually have some questions coming in. So do you mind if I share some of those with you?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to scroll back through. I'm really super glad that that Periscope gives me the ability to scroll through these. So gosh, there's a lot in here. Wait, hold on. This is going back over and over. Okay, so there's somebody here. Okay. Marty said, I can't imagine how hard this must have been to be raised in this environment. Magnus, who's over in Sweden, he actually said, praise the Lord for Denise that she is here today. And Chrissy said, you never know what someone has or is going through in life. Extend a measure of grace. Let's see here. I think you already answered that question, so I didn't say that one. I'm still scrolling. Hold on. There's lots of questions here. Okay, Call Me Daddy said, I have a friend named Mike who's struggling with transgenderism. Can you say... Oh, yeah, we're not going to say that. Never mind. That's nice try. I'm not saying that. Good. Nice try, though. Yeah, it was a name that sounded kind of crude, so we won't say that. It wasn't a sincere question. So let's see here. Okay, we're not going to say that. Okay. All right. Okay, so the other question then is, where is this event? Okay, so you actually speak all over the place. Do you want to tell people a little bit about what you're doing on the road and how they can get involved with what your ministry is?
Sure. So we're on our way to Louisville, Kentucky. We have an annual conference every year, and this year, actually this Friday and Saturday, will be in Clarksville, Indiana. And it's the opportunity that we have to minister to families that are going through these type of situations with a loved one that identifies as being the opposite of their biological sex. We have folks that'll travel from many different states, for instance, Idaho, Oregon, and California, and Illinois are just some of the states that folks are coming in. And so we just look for this opportunity to encourage them, in their as a transgender person, to give them an opportunity to meet others, to really minister to them. So we hold those annually. And alongside of the ministry work, we're just constantly looking for ways to support families, to support loved ones. Card that goes out to say a prayer. We have mom support groups. We also have actually a Zoom meeting for children that are going through this type of situation with a parent. Of course, we have authorization forms and that nature that need filled out. But it allows children to not feel alone, that they're not alone in this world, that there are other children that are going through that, just where they can talk about how they're feeling, about the grief, or sometimes actually bullyism. There's one story where this 13, he just turned 13, so he's 12 years old, and the kids at school were bullying him and said, why don't you just go wear a dress like your dad? So
You're gonna have
people
to
have no idea what they're trying, what they're.
Yeah. Oh, you're kind of cutting out quite a bit, so I didn't really hear the last minute of what you just said. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So the
come alongside.
so the last thing I heard was that you said there was a boy who he got bullied at school and saying, why don't you go wear a dress like your dad does? And then I didn't hear anything after that.
Right. So the situations that children face when it becomes public that they've got a parent that's transitioning, they're being bullied. It's heart-wrenching to hear some of these stories and what these children go through, and they love their parents, so they're caught in the middle.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody that has a friend that is struggling with that? Like a parent, just as an example. I mean, I actually have a friend. I actually do. I have a friend that struggles with this, and so what's the best way to support somebody who is struggling with it, or has a family member that is?
A couple things that we can do, even people, just everyday people in the church, is to be understanding, be compassionate, but to be trustworthy. Because after 14 years of in this line of work, I have not met yet somebody that identifies in this way that does not have a lot of scars, situations, events, trauma, things that had happened to them. Just as you said about Walt Hayer, he was dressed by his grandmother in a dress, or my dad that was sexually abused, and actually his brother and his buddies had put my dad in his sister's dress and stuffed him in a closet. For women, sometimes they've been raped, or they see women as being a victim, and so they look at being a woman as being a victim, and so they run the other way for that masculinity, to be in control. So for us to know, to be compassionate, to be caring, to be trustworthy, that if they're sharing with you, they open up and share, to keep that in confidence, because that's been really difficult for them, to come alongside of them in mentorship. Adult men, there's some adult men that I hear from that honestly just are seeking. I'll never forget the words of this one man that was 63 years old. He said, all I want from my dad is a hug. He's never had that emotional connection with his dad. And to hear of a man 63 years old that is just seeking for that love from his father. Churches, we can come alongside and become friends, become mentors, to the folks that struggle in this way, that struggle with their identity. Don't look at them as disgusting or untouchable.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because it's been my experience, at least with some of the people that I've known, that even though they look loud on the outside, and what I mean by that is that it's very obvious that they're not appearing to be the gender that they are. They're making a statement. Most of the people that I've met like that are very gentle in terms of, they're very sensitive people, and they need that. They need that love.
Yes.
So
yeah, most definitely. we need to show them the same love that Jesus Christ offers to each of us. Whether they accept it or reject it, that's of their free will, but we can offer it.
Right, exactly. So what would you say to a parent? Let's say a parent comes to you and says, "Oh, one of my children has decided that they are the opposite gender." Let's just say, for sake of argument, that they heard something in school about how they were, and the child comes home and says, "I want to wear a dress if it's a boy."
I think first of all, we have to look at what age group we're talking about, with children. So if we have a boy that's in elementary school, because this is becoming such propaganda in our schools, to be able to share with him, well, you want to wear a dress, but why would you want to wear a dress? What does that mean to wear a dress, and to define, but you're really a boy, and again, in a loving way, in an affirming way. And it would be best if that came from the father. To have the father come alongside of the son and to have that connection with him. Now, obviously, if it's a teenager that's wanting to come home and dress in the dress, so is it rebellion? Is it because possibly they're a loner and they have found a place with the LGBT because they're more of an introvert? What's your why are you feeling this way? To make it a safe place so that they can express their feelings, to express their thoughts, but to back it up gently with the truth. And if it's where they need to see some counseling because of maybe an event, maybe some trauma had happened that the parents don't realize, not to look at that as being shameful to go to a counselor. Go through family counseling, because we all know that counseling individuals with same-sex attraction and transgender dysphoria is becoming really difficult. Then go for family therapy. Let's talk about relationships and how possibly that child perceives mom or dad, or being a man or a woman. Is there some miscommunications? Is there something that happened that was hurtful that you didn't even realize? Who would have thought that my dad's words of "I want to become a woman" would have made me wonder if maybe I should have been a man. To know that I would have a beard, wear a suit, I imagine kissing a girl. So why? To leave that as an open forum and a safe place at home. Because if we don't have a safe place at home, or a safe place in our churches that we desperately need, then we might as well hand them over to the LGBT. We're not giving them an alternative.
Right. Well, and what I can hear some people actually saying is, well, the truth is they really don't have a safe place in the Christian world, because you guys are all so super judgmental, and it's because of you anyway that they've turned to the LGBT issue. So, and I've heard that. I've actually heard that from listeners. So how do you combat that? I mean, because there's some truth in it.
There is, so I look at the churches from being that 9-year-old girl to where I am now, and I think the churches are still, we're like 40 some years still back, leaving our head in the sand, not wanting to deal with this. I recently met with a girl that identifies as being a boy, and she had talked about she was raised with a Christian background, and I asked her what appeals to her about that. She said, well, they talk about these issues there. They're allowed to talk about it there, and though they're open, but they talk about it, and we fail that in the churches.
Yeah.
We hide from it. I had one pastor from California deal with it. I'm left to deal with all the pain that you surface from the individuals. Well, isn't that what the church is for?
Yeah. Well, a healthy church. Yeah.
Yes.
A healthy church is. All right, Randall is telling me I need to wrap this up. So, so I don't want you to hang up yet, because I want to say goodbye to you privately. But will you go ahead and tell everybody where they can get in touch with you, get your books, and all of that again?
Sure. So if they go to the helpforfamilies.com, and that's with the number 4, and it has our mailing address and phone number, all of our contact information. We also have a Facebook page and a Twitter page where we try to keep truth and articles and events going on around this issue to educate people on this. Our books are available through Amazon, and we're going to be thrilled to announce this Saturday of our first children's book. And that will be released Saturday, as I had said. And the title of that is When Daddy Leaves to Be a Girl.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for doing that. I mean, thank you for everything that you do. I know that there's not probably, well, let me put it this way. I know that it's a high cost. I get it. I get that it's a high cost for what you're doing, but I think your reward in heaven is great. And I want you to know that my audience, they actually really appreciate you coming on the show. In fact, we've had more people in this show today than pretty much double the amount of people came into this show today, just so you know, as my regular audience. So even though we've had the driving and all that, it's super cool. It's all right. And
The cop and everything. Huh?
yeah, we'll have you back though. Don't worry. Okay. So everybody, don't forget tomorrow. You know, we're here again at 4:00 Central Time. Don't forget, you can watch the archive. You can go back, share this out on all your social media platforms. If you want to go over to BibleNewsRadio.com and sign up for my email, you'll get alerted there of some other stuff. And you know, and most importantly, just remember, you know, that God loves you, right? Remember to be bold in your faith, to stand up and go with Him because He loves you. And you know what? You can reach people nobody else can. That's why God put you there. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.